Welcome to today's Explainer. I'm so glad you're here. Today we're diving deep into the profound, emotional, and, let's be honest, heavily debated journey of Jojo Moyes' best-selling novel, Me Before You. We're going to trace a story that has sparked intense conversations, inspired a massive blockbuster film, and literally moved millions of readers to tears. So let's get right into it.
Think about this for a second. What are the absolute limits of love and sacrifice when you're faced with an impossible choice? Keep that question in the back of your mind as we go. We're about to unpack a narrative that really challenges our deepest ideas about personal freedom, devotion, and what it truly means to live.
Here is our roadmap for today. 1. Two very different lives. 2. From resentment to romance. 3. The 6-month mission. 4. A heartbreaking choice. 5. Goodbyes and new beginnings. And 6. The story's lasting impact.
All right, Section 1. Two very different lives, worlds colliding.
So, picture this setup. On one side, we have 26-year-old Louisa, or Lou, Clark. She lives an exceedingly ordinary, maybe even unambitious life in a cramped house in a small English town. She wears these wonderfully quirky, colorful clothes, dates a completely oblivious triathlete named Patrick, and has spent years just comfortably working at a local tea shop. But on the flip side, we have Will Traynor. Before his accident, Will was this high-powered financier and a total extreme sports enthusiast. He climbed mountains, traveled to exotic places, he lived a life of expansive freedom and thrill-seeking.
But Will's reality is catastrophically altered when he's struck by a motorcycle. This results in C5-6 tetraplegia. To put that medical term into perspective, it means he has lost almost all sensation and control in his upper and lower body. He requires 24-hour care, he's confined to a wheelchair, and he deals with constant pain and severe medical complications. 2 years after this accident, Lou, who actually just lost her beloved tea shop job and desperately needs money for her family, is hired by Will's wealthy mother to be his new caregiver.
Which brings us to Section 2. From resentment to romance, the evolution of a bond.
Now, initially, Will is, well, to put it bluntly, he's cynical, bitter, and completely dismissive of Lou. Their relationship is incredibly rocky right out of the gate. But a massive turning point hits when Will's ex-girlfriend, Alicia, and his former best friend, Rupert, show up to announce that they're getting married. Will is understandably absolutely furious. He violently smashes photographs of his past life. When Lou tries to clean them up, he yells at her. But Lou does something unexpected. She stands her ground. She fires back that just because he's in a wheelchair doesn't give him a free pass to be miserable to her. And paradoxically, this outburst actually earns Will's respect. The ice between them finally starts to thaw.
From there, they develop this fascinating, almost Pygmalion-like dynamic. Will starts opening up about his past adventures, sharing his favorite memories, like sitting at a very specific cafe in Paris. Realizing Lou has never really done anything or gone anywhere, he challenges her to expect more out of life. Under his influence, Lou starts reading more, watching foreign films, and really expanding her horizons. Will kind of becomes this experienced educator, while Lou brings a much-needed spark of joy and vibrant color into his incredibly isolated world.
Okay, Section 3. The 6-month mission, a desperate bucket list.
The rising action truly kicks in when Lou accidentally uncovers a horrifying secret about why she was really hired. She finds out that Will had recently attempted suicide. Following that attempt, his mother, Camilla, made a desperate pact with him. Will agreed to live for exactly 6 more months, delaying a planned visit to Dignitas. Now, Dignitas is a real-world Swiss organization that provides assisted suicide options for those with severe illnesses. Camilla hired Lou specifically, hoping her bright, cheerful personality would make Will see that his life was still worth living before that 6-month clock runs out.
Once Lou uncovers this ticking clock, she makes it her absolute mission to change his mind. Aided by her sister Trina, Lou organizes a whole series of excursions to show Will the joy in life. It starts out pretty terribly with an ill-advised trip to a horse race where wheelchair accessibility is a total nightmare. But things progress. They go to a beautifully romantic classical music concert where Will actually tells Lou she's the only reason he wakes up in the morning. Eventually, Lou plans the grand finale, an idyllic, luxurious vacation to the island of Mauritius. She's hoping this ultimate escape will be the thing that saves his life.
Moving into Section 4. A heartbreaking choice, the Mauritius Confession.
So there they are, on the stunning beaches of Mauritius, and Will finally begins to smile and relax. Lou takes this moment to confess her love for him, and she admits she knows all about Dignitas. But here is the crucial point, Will's response. Despite admitting that his time with Lou has been special and that he does love her,
He remains steadfast. He tells her, "I can't be the kind of man who just accepts this." He simply cannot bear to live a life confined to a wheelchair, feeling like a shadow of his former self. He refuses to cancel his appointment, telling Lou he wants her to live a full life, not, in his words, half a life caring for him.
Before we move to the resolution, we really have to pause and ask a tough ethical question. Is Will's choice an erasure of the value of disabled lives, or is it a matter of fundamental personal freedom and bodily autonomy? This is exactly the moral complexity Jojo Moyes places squarely in our laps to grapple with.
Let's look at Section 5, Goodbyes and New Beginnings, Letting Go. Initially, Lou is devastated. She is furious. She storms off, refuses to speak to Will on the flight home, and actually quits her job as his caretaker. But eventually, her father helps her realize something vital. She cannot control Will's choices, but she can choose to be there for him. So, Lou overcomes her heartbreak and flies to the Dignitas Clinic in Switzerland. In a truly heart-wrenching resolution, they share a final emotional kiss, agreeing that the last 6 months have been the best of their lives, right before Will peacefully passes away.
But the novel doesn't end with Will's death. It ends with Lou's new beginning. Lou actually travels to that exact cafe in Paris Will always talked about. She opens a letter he left for her, and it includes this incredibly powerful quote: "Live boldly, push yourself, don't settle. Just live well, just live." And along with these words, Will leaves Lou a considerable financial inheritance. It's enough to secure her independence, continue her education, and force her to finally break out of her small town and truly experience the world.
Finally, Section 6, the story's lasting impact, themes and critiques.
You see, Me Before You isn't just a romance. It's a deep dive into love and sacrifice. It forces us to examine the highly subjective definition of quality of life, because what makes life worth living for one person might not be the same for another. It weighs personal freedom against our duty to those we love, and ultimately, it's a profound masterclass in grief, and the agonizing act of letting go of someone you love enough to respect their ultimate choice.
This translates really interestingly when comparing the source material. The 2012 book gives these difficult moral questions plenty of room to breathe. We get deep character introspection, which gives Lou's personal growth real weight and makes Will's internal struggle incredibly challenging to read. The 2016 film adaptation, on the other hand, condenses a lot of that moral complexity to deliver a highly accessible, star-powered emotional romance. The film works brilliantly as a tearjerker, for sure, but the book really asks you to sit with those heavy ethical dilemmas a lot longer.
We also have to neutrally acknowledge the significant academic and cultural critique this story received. Many disability advocates argue the narrative frames disability strictly as a tragedy. Critics also point out a stark lack of professional mental health treatment for Will's very obvious depression, noting that his family essentially just hires a cheerful girl instead of a qualified therapist. Ultimately, some scholars argue the story reinforces oppressive assumptions of normalcy by suggesting that for a formally active man like Will, death is somehow a more dignified outcome than living with a severe disability.
To balance that critique, it's really fascinating to look at the author's intent. Jojo Moyes stated she was directly inspired by a real-life news story in the UK about a young quadriplegic man who persuaded his parents to take him to Dignitas. Moyes wanted to explore that moral gray area. She wanted to understand how a parent could ever agree to such an unimaginable thing. Her goal wasn't to dictate a right or wrong answer, but to explore the agonizing realities of these specific, deeply personal circumstances.
Which leaves us with one final, provocative question. When life drastically alters our path, how do we honor those we love while still living boldly for ourselves? Louisa Clark and Will Traynor fundamentally transformed each other's lives. Will gave Lou the world, and Lou gave Will peace in his final months. It's a story that asks us what we would do in Lou's shoes and challenges us, always, to remember to live well. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll see you next time.